Thank you very much, councillors and General Manager, senior staff, the clergy, the press, one and all, a warm welcome. And I declare open the Temora Shire Council meeting for March of 2024. And I advise that this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. And all present today, of course, that we're reminded whilst we're speaking that we're agreeing that our view and comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when we're speaking that we're, of course, to be respectful to others and use the appropriate language. And Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. Councillors, at the acknowledgement of country, as we begin our meeting today, Temora Shire Council acknowledge the traditional owners of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people. We acknowledge their continued connection to country and culture, and we pay our heartfelt respects to elders, both past and present, acknowledging their contribution to the Temora Shire community, a place we all call home. And now I'm very pleased to invite the Reverend Nathan Manwaring of St Paul's here to deliver our opening prayer. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you. Lord, you instruct us in the Bible to pray and to give thanks for all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives. We thank you that we live in a land of order, justice and opportunity. We pray for our representatives in state and federal parliament, Steph Cook and Michael McCormack. We pray also for our Premier, Chris Minns, and the Leader of the Opposition, Mark Speakman, for our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and the Leader of the Opposition, Peter Dutton. Give them wisdom to make well-informed decisions, humility to listen carefully to others, resilience in the face of criticism, and endurance for their long hours of work. Lord, bless the land of our farmers, that we may receive its produce to sustain our community. Bless our police force, paramedics, fire brigade and SES as they come to our aid. Bless our businesses, sporting and arts groups, voluntary organisations, aged care facilities and places of learning as they enrich our lives. Bless our medical, nursing and pharmacy staff as they care for us. We give you thanks for the service of our Temora Shire councillors, council management and staff. Give them clarity of speech, alertness of mind, patience and wisdom as they work together in the best interests of the people of Temora Shire. We continue to thank you for the General Manager, Melissa Boxall, and her family, and for all who are newly arrived here. And we pray for them to experience and to share that they've made their home in the friendly Shire. We ask these things in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. A beautiful, beautiful prayer. Thank you, Reverend, and we're very, very grateful for those opening words, and we hope you're able to stay for a little bit for the meeting. We don't have a very thick business paper, but but thank you very much. Councillors, any apologies at this time, Madam General Manager? I think we have a dance card. Happy? Let's go to declaration of interest at this time, please. Councillor Irvine. Oh, sorry, Councillor McLaren. Oh, sorry. Councillor Oliver. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's two items in the confidential section that I'd declare a pecuniary interest in, and I will leave the room when the discussion takes place. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we go to Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's a matter in the confidential minutes that I will declare an interest in then. A pecuniary interest.
Thanks, Councillor Good. I now go to Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, pecuniary interest in a matter in the confidential reports.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I now go to Councillor Judd.
Just a pecuniary interest in the Euro Park flood study report.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
A non-pecuniary interest in item 12.4.
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. And again, if a councillor hasn't thought of it at this time, of course you will have that opportunity when the matter is introduced. So, thank you. They're noted, and let's now proceed to the confirmation of the minutes of the February meeting of Temora Shire Council. Is someone that was present care to move that they be received as a true and correct record?
I'll move that
Councillor
way.
Good, thank you. You'll move that way. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Matters arising, Madam General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's no matters arising.
Thank you. Let's now proceed to the mayoral minutes. Councillors, you have a loose leaf late report. Councillors, staff and citizens of Temora Shire have learnt of the sad passing of one of our inaugural Temora Shire councillors, the late Reginald Lorne Bruce, at the age of 93. A highly regarded farmer and grazier from Bettrick, Mr Bruce was first elected to serve in local government as a councillor on the former Narrabri Shire back in 1971. Mr Bruce was a second generation councillor, taking over from his father, the late Gordon Bruce. Serving on the Narrabri Shire until it merged with the Temora Municipal Council in 1980, Mr Bruce was one of the 11 councillors elected to serve on the inaugural Temora Shire Council. Mr Bruce continued to serve as a councillor until the 1983 triennial elections, where he chose not to seek re-election. Our longest serving councillor in New South Wales is Temora Shire's Councillor Judd. And Councillor Judd was elected both to the Narrabri Shire Council in 1977 and then the Temora Shire Council in 1980, and therefore had the honour of serving alongside Mr Bruce. I also acknowledge Mr Bruce's grandson, our engineering asset manager, Mr Robert Fisher. We are all aware of how proud Mr Bruce was of Mr Fisher, and we also know that Mr Fisher, together with his entire family, will continue to honour Mr Bruce's well-respected name. The prayers and the thoughts of all past and present councillors, staff members and citizens of Temora Shire remain with Mrs Bruce, Mr Bruce's wife, Mrs Del Bruce and their family. At this time I'd like to ask Councillor Judd to say a few remarks.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I did have the pleasure of working with Reg Bruce, both in the last term of the Narrabri Shire Council and the first term of the Temora Shire Council. Reg was a great advocate for the rural area, in particular the Bettrick area, and he knew his roads well. And it was, when we went to the Temora Shire Council, it was great assistance to have men like Reg advocating for the rural roads in our shire. I worked with Reg over 2 terms. He was one of those councillors that he never left you in doubt what he thought about something, you know, so that if you didn't like it, well, Reg let you know. So, but if he supported something, he was right behind it. So, yeah. And I support the remarks of the Mayor saying that we're indeed lucky that grandson Rob Fisher is certainly going to carry on the great tradition of the Reg Bruce and the family. And I could tell you a few stories about Reg and after going to meetings after tea and all that, but I might save those for later. But yeah, so a few good stories like that. But anyway, it certainly was a pleasure to work with Reg, and we certainly will miss him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judd. And the councillors and staff and all present in the chamber, I'd ask you to please rise in your places, and we shall observe a minute's silence in honour of our former councillor, the late Mr Bruce. Thank you very much. Councillors, there is a recommendation there for council to consider that the mayoral minute be noted. Councillor Judd, thank you. Councillor Good, second the motion. Moved, seconded. Discussion? There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, let's now proceed to our business paper. So we commence at page 11, the minutes of the Access and Equity Committee. Someone please move that those minutes are received. Thank you, Councillor Bushell. Councillor Reinhold, thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. The chairman of that committee is the Director of Environmental Services. Does the Director have anything he wishes to highlight or comment on in the report?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren and Councillor Bushell, you sit on that committee. Do you have anything you wish to comment on at this time? Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. One thing I did want to check with the Director of Environmental Services on is with the handrails on the Town Hall steps. I know the committee were very keen to have one on that angle, and I'm wondering what your opinion is in whether you'd prefer to wait and put that one in first and see if the middle one needs to go in, or whether to put them both in.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The Director.
I was looking at that only an hour ago. I think we'll put both in just to be safe, and yeah, it shouldn't be too much of extra cost.
Thanks very much. Go to Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I think cost-wise, if they're doing it at the same time, it's going to work out significantly cheaper than trying to do one at a time.
Thank you. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to move that the reports and the recommendations be moved.
Thank you. So you're moving that the reports and recommendations for the Access and Equity Committee be adopted?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Judd.
I'll comment.
Seconder discussion, Councillor Judd.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I was involved in, I attended the meeting as an observer at item 4.2 on the council office building awning. I raised this matter some years ago, but was put in the estimates a number of times, but kept getting deleted. But I think things have changed over the time, and I thought it was appropriate to really revisit it, and hopefully that when we're going to do, we're looking at a building now that was built and opened in 1986, and I think time's coming we're going to need to do some alterations and refurbishment and updating. So, and I think it's great that we might have another look at this situation. Thank you.
Yep, thanks very much, Councillor Judd. We go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 4 to 2024 on page 18, the removal of the bollard in the centre crossing Street. That was put there for a particular reason, to stop people absent-mindedly walking across the street with their phone or whatever. I think it's got merit to be there. I mean, disabled people and so forth, they've still got quite enough access to get around it and so forth. I'm particularly not particularly happy about it being taken out. I'd be interested to see what the education is to why the bollard should be removed. But yeah, I'd certainly like to see it stay there myself.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I agree with your comments. When I first read it, I was certainly a big pusher for those as well at the time when they were installed under the former engineer, Mr Giacomin. And I think that having them there is far more safer, in my view, and again, acknowledging that we have a business very, very close by there. I think they've been a very, very wise investment and decision on Council's behalf, and I would strongly support your remarks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Judd.
Yeah, I would support Councillor Sinclair's remarks as well. I remember the reason we put it, and I know I've seen a number of times with young people on scooters actually heading straight across the pedestrian crossing, and even older people on gophers, I think. But we need to sometimes just have a little deterrent to slow them down a bit so they stop and look a bit more. So I'd like to see it stay or have another look at it.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillor Irvine.
All of those reasons are quite valid. The only reason that it was put forward and agreed at the meeting for the removal was after a visit from an accessibility advocate body, and fundamentally we've got tactiles that indicate to a person who's sight impaired that they've left the crossing and their anticipation is that there's no further obstacle directly in front of them, and then we put the bollard. It's not, that's the problem. So we've got a situation, okay, if we want to incorporate these tactiles, which we've got an obligation to do under the standards, then we have to put tactiles on a V, either side of this bollard. It becomes this really complicated process to accommodate the sight impaired person. So it's not, certainly not argued that the barrier plays its role for the purposes that it was designed for, but for the sight impaired who've just crossed the crossing with a cane and they feel the tactiles and then they make the assumption that they can move straight ahead and they trip over the bollard.
But if they have a cane, Councillor Irvine, I would assume that they'd pick up that particular sign as well.
Maybe. Fundamentally, if we're going to, we have to go and put tactiles either side of that bollard to comply.
Well, it's not the only thing that's in that precinct. There's also signage, there's also, I think, lighting there.
Yeah, but there's no
poles as
tactiles with an obstacle immediately a metre behind it.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally it. And we've basically said, here's a pedestrian crossing, here's some tactiles, here's an obstacle. That's, look, I made the thing. I reckon it's a great piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And, it's been really serviceable. How long's it been there? 15 years?
Yep. Have to be.
Yeah, look, I'm not debating that. I'm saying that in the current, to comply with the...
But these are recommendations, Councillor Irvine.
Yes, but they refer to a standard.
Well, that's right, but ultimately they're recommendations for this
which
council.
Which refers to a standard. So if council chooses not to apply the standards, then council may leave itself exposed were someone to have an issue with it.
That's right, but it ultimately is a matter for council to determine what they wish to accept, reject,
pick
or
your own
amend.
level of risk.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Irvine. We'll go to Councillor Irvine. Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the decision point at the committee was a choice between leaving it as it is or what obligations council has and what risks are to council by leaving them there, and leaving them there exposes us to somebody who is visually impaired injuring themselves by this obstruction in their pathway. And I think that given it was an Access and Equity Committee and we've got an ageing population and I think our responsibility is to the visually impaired ahead of somebody who runs out. And I think we've got more risk and more obligations to be compliant with the visually impaired directive than other issues. So I was very much in favour of that, and I felt that having that block there it exposed council to risk.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. I have a completely different view. I think it exposes us to even more risk for things to happen there at a very, well, let's be frank, it's potentially very dangerous crossing, that's for sure. Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I understand that this crossing is with the Transport for New South Wales people. We had it at our traffic committee, we discussed it at length, and I thought they were going to take it away and do some costing or assessing or something or other. I mean, look, and a set of stoplights here would solve all of these issues, if they're going to keep the crossing, that is. But yeah, so anyway, that's just something that I think we need to consider too going forward. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does the Engineering Works Manager, do you have any comment in relation to the remarks made by Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, for Councillor Oliver's comments, there is an outstanding resolution that was through Traffic Committee and Council previously that's still on the books to have Transport for New South Wales take a review of that whole precinct following the upgrade of the pavement in Hoskin Street, is what's specifically said in the resolution.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Well, councillors, we have a motion from Councillor Bushell, Councillor Judd, that we adopt the report and recommendations. Is there an amendment? If there's no amendment, then I'm going to. Is there any further discussion? If Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is very interesting. After speaking with a few people, a person I know is blind. They have a relative who's blind, and they actually were saying that crossing the street is becoming more dangerous now with electric cars. So watch this space. Maybe tactile indicators may not be something that CBDs will be looking at. I don't know, but anyway, that's just one comment that they're actually evolving with.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councillor Bushell. Well, if there's no further discussion or amendment, I will. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps, I don't know whether this this probably should be left on the table till we get some sort of result from Transport for New South Wales, because something that Councillor Bushell said is something I hadn't considered, these electric cars who sneak along nowadays, and perhaps that should be in...
Well, thank you, Councillor. I was hoping that that would happen, because I think the words of the Engineering Works Manager is very, very important, that there is a standing resolution on the books that Council has passed, as articulated by the Manager, and I think that's the only sensible thing to do, is my personal view, is to hold fire until that has been enacted. But Councillor Oliver, I can't do anything unless I have an amendment.
Well, I'll move an amendment to that, that we leave this on the table, this particular item on the table, until we have some sort of a resolution from the Traffic Committee or the Transport people in regard to stoplights and that sort of thing.
Thank you. So that's in relation to Committee Resolution 4-2024 on page 18. Thank you. So we've captured... Thank you. Seconded the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. So moved and seconded. We're all clear on the motion? And that the remainder of the report be received and adopted. That's your motion, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, yeah, thank you.
Remain pending. Clarity.
So,
Amendment Resolution 4/2024.
laid on the table, pending review by Transport of the precinct.
What that means?
What, sorry?
Be laid on the
Yes. So thank you. Thank you for your patience, Councillor. Just the team trying to capture the amendment that the Committee Resolution 4-2024 be laid on the table pending a review by Transport for New South Wales of the precinct. So the mover and seconder, that captures your reflections. Thank you. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor. And that further that the remainder of the Access and Equity Committee report and recommendations be adopted. Well, it's deferred.
I think how they had a header that
Be considered.
be deferred until, yeah, right and later.
Okay, so the mover and second, are you happy with that, Deputy Mayor? Yeah. Well, thank you for your patience. We're getting there. So sometimes writing the minutes is so. Whilst we're waiting for it to be up on the screen formally, Councillor McLaren.
I didn't know whether, as it was passed at the committee level to pass the whole lot, that you had to then, if you wanted to consider one matter separately, you had to consider one lot, the majority of the reports in one resolution and then a separate item in another one. You can't just have one resolution. Like the item to do with the crossing, you'd have to draw out of it and consider that separately to the remainder of the report. It's two separate motions.
Well, the resolution, though, specifically for 2024 relates to just that issue in relation to the pedestrian interference.
I just remember we dealt with something a few months ago when I tried to change one thing in a meeting and we couldn't do it because it was all in one resolution.
So instead of that being an amendment.
So can we please, the Director?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think what Councillor McLaren is saying is that that motion there should not be an amendment. It should be its own motion.
Stand alone.
That's right. And then we'll have a third motion to that the remainder of the reports and recommendations be presented as adopted.
Yes, yes. Yep, okay, yep. Thank you very much. Now, so, in relation to, yes, that is quite right. So, Councillor Oliver and the Deputy Mayor, you are moving in relation to, well, we already have a motion on the table. So we already have a motion on the table to adopt the report and its recommendations, which Councillor Bushell and Councillor Judd have moved and seconded. So that's why I've asked
Can we remove ours and then
for an amendment.
We're going to remove ours and then do it after.
Okay, so Councillor Bushell and Councillor Judd are withdrawing the motion. Thank you. Now, Councillor Oliver and the Deputy Mayor, you're moving a standalone motion that is articulated as follows in relation to 4.2024, that it be... Where are we? So that the resolution 424 be deferred pending review of the precinct by Transport for New South Wales. So that's just in relation to 424. Are you also moving that the remainder of the report and recommendations be adopted? And further?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Mover and second are clear on their motion. Is there any further discussion on that particular motion? If not, I'll put that. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. So please raise your hands if you're in favour of the motion, please. Those opposed, declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Now we proceed to all the way over, would you believe, to our next report, and that is the Assets and Operations Committee report on page 63, and the Deputy Mayor is the chairman. The Deputy Mayor, sorry, Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, we haven't passed the rest of the resolutions, I don't think.
Yes, the remainder, well, that was in the original motion, it should have been. That was in the original motion, and further, that the remainder of the report and recommendations be adopted. Well, that was what I asked the mover and the seconder.
Also have to delete out 31 at the top.
No, that's been received. That report has been received. So now we're on to 32, 2024. Now I'm going to read it for the last time and I'm going to put it to the vote. Are we all clear up here? So I'm going to do it again. The motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, that Resolution 4/2024 be deferred pending review of the precinct by Transport for New South Wales, and further, it was resolved that the remainder of the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. Councillor Oliver, you're happy. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, you're happy. The General Manager, we're right? Thank you. I'm going to now put it to the vote. All those of that opinion, please raise your hand. Thank you. To the contrary, declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. We're now over to page 63, the Assets and Operations Committee report. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, is the chairman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor, has moved the reports received. Seconded, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Mr Deputy Mayor, as the chairman, do you have anything you wish to highlight?
Not at this stage, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you. Councillors, the report and recommendations are there for you to consider. Not, is someone prepared to move that the Assets and Operations Committee report and recommendations be adopted? Councillor Good, thank you. Has moved the motion. Seconder for the motion, thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved, seconded, discussion. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Now we go to page 99, the minutes of the Economic Development Visitations Committee report, and I was the acting chairman in place of our chairman, Councillor McLaren. And is Councillor McLaren happy to move the reports received?
I am.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, the committee considered the report there, as you can see. Lots of exciting projects in that space in terms of economic development visitations. You have the report there for you. Is there any comments? If not, Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just about the drench and embrace.
Yes.
On page 100. I went to the Songbirds over at the town hall. They had the event in the actual cinema, but we all gathered in the foyer to start with, and one of the musicians came out and was like the Pied Piper, and the acoustics were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then just the event at the library, the International Women's Day. We had the author Fleur MacDonald come all the way from Perth, and it was a fantastic night. I think we had about 80 plus women. So anyway, well done. It was very good.
Well done. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold, for that feedback. Well, if there's no further discussion, is Councillor prepared to move that the report and recommendations be adopted, or is there an alternate? Councillor Good? Thank you. Councillor Good's moved that direction. Is there a seconder? Councillor McLaren. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Now, over to page 108, the Aerodrome Users Committee report, and Councillor Judd is the chairman. Hang on.
Move the report be received.
Thank you, Councillor Judd's moved, the report's received. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The main item on the business was a report on a proposal to change from left-hand circuits to right-hand circuits, and we circulated to all the aerodrome users, and definitely say the majority were keen to keep the present system of left-hand circuits, and as it says there in the report, the manager's reporting that unless there's a majority change, well, status quo should remain, and that's so the report is to investigate the option of having right-hand circuits on special occasions, I think, but to keep the left-hand circuits. I think that's the way it goes. And we did have Tim Reid from the Australian Defence Force online as well, and he's reporting on behalf of the conducting the parachutes operations at Temora. And Tim reported that with the recent death of Jack Fitzgibbon up in the Hunter Valley, all parachute operations have been suspended till investigations take place. So I don't know what's going to happen there for a while. So that's about all, Mr Chair.
Right. Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. Any other comments or questions from councillors in relation to the Aerodrome Users Report? If not, is someone prepared to move the report and recommendations, or is an alternate? Councillor Good? Thank you. You've moved that. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? If not, I shall put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 118, delegates' reports. Pardon me. Do we have delegates' reports, please? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I attended the Lake Committee, Management Committee meeting on, I think it was Tuesday night this week. Everything's going along fine. I did raise the matter of the fencing around the playground equipment. I said that was a resolution of committee recommendation that council don't go ahead with it. So it was coming up tonight to vote on. They didn't seem particularly worried that it wasn't going to go ahead, which a couple of thought surprised me a little bit, but anyway, so there's an extra money there that they need to find someone else to spend it on now, I suppose, which might be a bonus to the council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. A couple of weeks ago I attended the Springdale Progress Association committee meeting out at the Springdale Hall, and everything's going rather well for them. They're getting everything ready for their Anzac Day ceremony and such. What they have been struggling with was with members, and they done a letter drop around the village, and subsequently they got 3 new members on the committee, which was really good. So there might be a little bit more different input coming from those particular people. 2 of them recently moved, well actually 3 of them have recently moved to the area, so seem like nice people, so anyway.
That's great.
That's it, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Councillor, just a few things that several of us... sorry, before I start, I'll go to Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I already said about songbirds and the library event, but I also went to the Greyhounds charity race, and I was pleased to see the Friends of the Cemetery got first and second place. Tem FM got 3rd place, and the Women's Network group got 4th. And it was a really good crowd. It was a lovely, cool night. Yes, so that was that. And I have one little... Temora Community Centre had their pool party, and I know I banged on about the barbecues, but I'm banging on about the barbecues. They were clean, but it took me 2 hours to cook. 200 sausages, which was a bit embarrassing, but anyway.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you,
thank
Councillor
you.
Reinhold. I don't know if the Director of Environmental Services has any comment at this point, or you take it on notice.
Slow cooking's all the rage, Councillor. No, sorry, Councillor Reinhold. We have money to be spent in the off-season. We've already sourced the barbecue, and it'll be going in when the pool season closes. So that's part of the upgrade.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Just to advise Council, several of us attended the 51st live exhibition at the Bundawarra Centre, and very warm, very warm day in more ways than one. But also we were there for the opening of the enhanced entrance walkway at the Bundawarra Centre, and the member for Cootamundra presided, and it was also lovely to see Mr Holden, the retired superintendent of the Temora Bland RFS, being honoured again from a resolution of council and a recommendation from other parties, and seeing his family and colleagues there, it was a very heartwarming occasion. But again, in relation to the upgrades out there, they look fantastic, and we warmly congratulate the Director of Environmental Services as the project manager and all others that were involved in bringing that project to fruition. Very, very well done. Further delegates' reports. Councillors, you will receive a report in relation to a motion that is going to the New South Wales Country Mayors meeting, which part of it was today and it was tomorrow. They've changed it, so that's why us and many others aren't able to attend. Very few from the Riverina, unfortunately, this time. But in relation to the emerging issue with biosecurity, weed management, and the changes that have been thrust upon council in terms of funding, and there's some serious issues there, and there will be a report come to council I think next month, Madam General Manager, but that's something that the General Manager and the General Managers of Junee and Coolamon Shires have written already in relation to the matter, but we'll tease it out more formally next month. But just wanted to flag that in broad detail, that there's a funding issue there that has to be addressed as soon as possible. The General Manager, you have anything to add?
No, thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, I've co-signed a letter with the two General Managers, as you've mentioned, and we will await feedback from the Country Mayors meeting tomorrow to see what the outcome of that is, and then we'll bring that report back to Council for the April Council meeting. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager, and thank you for the swift response from you and the other two councils. It's something that we need to be on the front foot with on this one. Just also to advise that that the state government have advised IPART that they're withdrawing the referral for the review of the financial modelling of councils to avoid unnecessary duplication, and the matter now will instead be considered by the New South Wales Parliament Standing Committee on State Development. So IPART will consider all feedback received in response to the draft terms of reference and provide a summary of issues raised by stakeholders to the New South Wales Government. So it's potentially not a complete waste of time, but anyway, I just don't know. But having said that, a bouquet to the state government, particularly the Premier, Mr Minns, for listening to the country mayor's advocacy and the 87 members that we have, the rural crime inquiry. He adopted that, I think it was last night, wasn't it? So that's fantastic news, and we applaud the Premier and the government for listening. Yes, we are blessed currently in our patch, but there's many in our state that are not. And I think this holistic approach is fantastic news. Councillor McLaren.
Could I just go back and comment on that biosecurity issue that's coming next month? I notice sometimes some councils spray beside the roads and sometimes they slash. And I'm wondering whether the costs of slashing on a regular basis should be considered when we consider our budget for potentially spraying the edges of the road and the length of time that a spray will last compared to the maintenance of slashing over that period. I just noticed that a lot of feathertop grass has been coming into our regions from the western districts, and a lot of farmers are very concerned about that. It's, beside the road, it's about this tall, it's got little fluffy tops. It's a bit like umbrella grass, it gets into your paddock, very hard to control. So that's been a real concern. Spraying it out would be brilliant. Chopping it off is not so good, just puts the seed on the ground, blows into your paddock. So I just wanted to have that, when you're looking at budget dollars, can we consider the cost savings of spraying the weeds versus the maintenance of slashing them? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. I think, Madam General Manager, would you like Councillor McLaren perhaps to send a councillor request in relation to that matter so that can be considered as part of perhaps the report that's filtered, going to come through, the General Manager?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we can note that from this evening's meeting. What I will say is, depending on the outcome of this situation with the funding, we may be, the expectation may be that council funds further in that space as opposed to it being co-funded by the state government. So I think it's really important that we continue to look at the advocacy piece around this because it is certainly very important for our region and our Shire in particular.
Thank you, Madam General Manager and Councillor McLaren. The State Member for Cootamundra is also informed of this issue in broad terms, and as more detail comes out, again, Council will be informed and determine ways forward. The Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to refer to Councillor McLaren's comments on spraying versus slashing, I still think Council needs to use both because continuous spraying ends up with a lot of resistant weeds and so forth. In regards of like rosegrass, feathertop, that is a not so much general council issue. It's the weeds committee that's like we've got Rob Ferguson's. That's part of his contract to actually control those areas, and they're specific areas that, and it's those, as you said, weeds hard to control, so they need specific measures to keep on top of them. So I don't think you don't want to be giving up one for the other. I think it's a good idea to have a blend of both there.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor McLaren.
Just in response, I've just been frustrated over the years because we seem to have a lot of money for that body to map where the weeds are, but no money to actually spray them.
Thank you, but the timely input, Councillor McLaren, so thank you. Further delegates' reports, just to advise, the General Manager and I will be attending the Country Mayors Association Summit in Forbes, and the theme is on housing, and that's on the 8th and 9th of April, and I think we've got Committee Day around that time. So we will be back for Committee Day, of course. That's for sure. And just finally, Council, just to let you know, the General Manager and I co-signed a letter that was sent to the federal government in relation to the new Greenstone Lodge submission. As you're, I think, aware that Frank Whitt Masonic Homes have been lobbying very, very hard to seek funding under the first of two rounds of Aged Care Infrastructure Fund from the federal government. It's a $24 million build when it was funded back in February 2020 for 17. It's just, obviously the costs are just so significantly higher now, and there's been several meetings that the Chief Executive, Mr Mamourelis, has had in Canberra with ministers, shadow ministers, senior bureaucrats, And they are just so committed. I have to say, it warms the heart just how committed they are into doing all that they can with the support of Mr McCormack, our federal member, and of course Council, doing all they can to hopefully have a successful application, and if not, there is another round as well. But Mr Mamorellis and the Frank Whidden board wanted Council and our community to know that they're doing all that they can and more, and certainly you know, we're trying to do our best as well. So we'll keep Council informed further as developments arise. So no further delegates' reports. Thank you. Well, let us move on to page 119, the Mayor's report for the month of February, and there's a recommendation on page 121 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Good. Has moved that way. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Let's go to page 122, staff reports. Motion receiving staff reports, please. Councillor Judd, thank you. Councillor Good, seconded the motion. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 123, the General Manager's report, 12.1, calendar of events. The General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. The report is as written. In addition, on the 27th of March, there is the Re-Rock Take Charge youth event that is on, and we'll add that to the notes of the upcoming calendar of events. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard the General Manager, you've read the report. Is someone prepared to move that the calendar events be noted with that inclusion? Thank you, Councillor Good. Councillor Bushell, seconded the motion. Moved, seconded. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 124. 12.2, Local Government New South Wales Conference, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, we've received notice of the upcoming New South Wales Annual Local Government Conference. It is being held in Tamworth this year. As this will be post the election, it is recommended that Council nominates a voting delegate and other attendees by position as opposed to by individuals at this point in time. However, we would like to be able to secure tickets at the early bird rate to ensure attendance. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. So councillors, I mean, traditionally it's been the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, the General Manager and one other councillor is what we've traditionally had. The Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Mr Mayor, due to the timing of the conference, at this stage I'll rule myself out. It's around the harvest time and yeah, might be just a bit too busy for me to get there.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So, councillors, your wish. I mean, we do have I think there's a policy, isn't there, a basic policy that has that the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and if the Deputy Mayor or Mayor can't, then there's opportunities for other councillors. Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So from my understanding, we just need to nominate 3.
Well,
as per previous.
Traditionally we've had, 3 elected.
Because we don't know who our
the Mayor,
delegates will
2
be.
other councillors and the General Manager.
Yep. So I'd just say 3 councillors.
Yep, so 3 councillors and the General Manager?
Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you. And the voting delegates? Be the Mayor? Yep, thank you. So you're moving that way? Seconded, Councillor Good, thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion? No discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Page 125, we have 12.3, the reallocation of funds for administration office fit out, and the author of the report is the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. As part of the integrated planning and reporting annual planning process, discussion has been held about the need to improve access, functionality and the aesthetic of the council administration building. There was a council workshop held earlier in February to discuss this, and there was in principle support at that workshop for a reallocation of some funding that we already had available in the budget. And so this recommendation is formalising that in principle support so that the project can be progressed if it's the will of the council. And it also gives us some direction in terms of including a draft action item for the new financial year's operational plan. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you have the report there and the recommendation for Council to consider. Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think it was intimated in the Access and Equity Committee report that that items in there that might be included in this review as well, please. So.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. The General Manager, you're...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that was noted as part of the Access and Equity Committee in relation to the awning at the front of the building in terms of access and comfort, I suppose, of the customers coming into the building. That will be noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McLaren.
After being over to Wagga Council and seeing their expansive customer service area, I can appreciate our substandard conditions for privacy and customer service, so I definitely agree with that. I'm concerned about what's going to happen with the electric car charger in the back corner there if the car park is extended. Will that be reallocated to another position in town somewhere?
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what is being proposed at this stage is a design process for the building, an identification of early stage works that wouldn't be about expanding the building at this point. Any reference to the redesign of the building will be taking into account possible expansion in future years, but the expansion of the building is a long-term proposition. It's not a short-term proposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, Madam General Manager. Councillor Irvine.
And I think part of the discussion at the workshop was around identifying or putting some work into what future needs are anticipated before anything gets done, so that the works that get done are staged and they've got some target goals at the end and they meet the perceived needs. You're never going to get it 100% right, but you do have to think about where you want to be in 10 or 15. So it's not mentioned here, but I think that that future planning's got to play a big part in the stages of this.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I would suggest very strongly that that will be part of that particular process for Council to consider. So thank you. Councillors, you have a recommendation there for you to consider, or is there an alternate motion? The Deputy Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I'll move the recommendation on bottom of page 125.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor's moved that. Councillor Reinhold has seconded the motion, and that is recommendations on the bottom of page 125. Further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 126, 12.4, letter of support for Dr Parry Holmes, Apollo Place. Councillor McLaren has taken a leave of the chamber, noting her interest as a board member of Dr Parry. The General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. A meeting was held with members of Dr Parry Memorial Homes and Steph Cook, our local member for Cootamundra, as well as some senior staff and the Mayor. And as a result of that meeting and the advocacy that is occurring with the member for Cootamundra, it has been requested that a letter be prepared from Council, and this is asking for that support. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you have the report there. There is a recommendation. I have to say that meeting, I think, went very, very well with the members of Cootamundra and the representatives of Dr Parry and several of our senior staff that were present. And I'm also delighted to advise that the Housing Minister for New South Wales is going to meet with Council over a working lunch in August. So the General Manager and I will advise you of that. But hopefully, obviously, there's a lot of work done on this issue prior to, but we can sort of spend some time talking about other initiatives, and perhaps we've got some time to show around what's happening in that space as well, visually. So, councillors, there's a recommendation for you to consider, or is there an alternative? Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move the resolution.
Thank you. Councillor Good's moving the recommendation on the bottom of page 126 that Council write to the member for Cootamundra, Ms Steph Cook MP, in support of Dr Parry Holmes Memorial Home's development of Apollo Place in Temora. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. There's no further discussion. Put the motion to. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Oliver, you're in fine shape now. Are you able to get Councillor McLaren? Thank you. He's grown a couple of inches too. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Welcome back to the Chamber, Councillor McLaren. During your temporary absence, the motion of Councillor Good and Councillor Reinhold, it was moved and carried unanimously, the recommendation on page 126. Thank you. Councillors, let's proceed over to page 130, 12.5, Communications Media Policy, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, council officers have been working their way through a range of policies, and the one that we're bringing forward tonight is an amalgamation of two current policies.
That's a rude word in this chamber, amalgamation.
My apologies. It's a combination of two policies, communications policy and the media policy, and bringing those two together. We're recommending to Council that they endorse this new updated policy. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks very much, Madam General Manager, and well done to you and the team for compiling this document. I think it's very, very impressive, easy to read and easy to follow. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation, but also ask that another paragraph be added to it. And
Yes.
this is out of the social media policy, and it's concerns or complaints, and it's concerns or complaints about the administration of a council's social media platforms should be made to the council's general manager in the first instance. Well, secondly, the complaints about the conduct of council officials, including councillors, on social media platforms may be directed to the general manager. And thirdly, complaints about a general manager's conduct or social media platforms may be directed to the mayor. I think it's just something that fits in with the other policy. And I think it fits in with
consistent. Yeah, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'm just going to go to the General Manager before I call for a second, just to make sure that we're on the right path. The General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I do understand the sentiment from the Deputy Mayor in relation to this. Can I suggest that we keep it more broadly than specifically referencing social media in relation to complaints for media more broadly? That would be absolutely consistent with the wording for the social media policy, but because this is a media and communications policy, it just keeps it at that broader level. But it would be definitely consistent with what we have in the other policy, the G28 policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. So what I will ask the General Manager, if you see what's captured on the screen at the moment.
Yeah.
So you're happy that social media is included?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, what I do understand the intent, that it's similar to the one we do have in the social media policy, but that it's applicable to media in the broader sense of its term.
Okay, so you're happy with what's there. Okay, thank you. So Deputy Mayors, you're happy with that. I'll call for a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Good. Moved the Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Good. Discussion, Councillor McLaren.
I just wondered where the overlap was on page 137, where it talks about councillors must not purport to speak for the council. How does that overlap with a social media account? Is that taken to be speaking for council, or is that a private speaking? It's just a very difficult area there.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The social media policy would still exist. So in terms of taking direction when it came to social media, that policy would be what you refer to for clarity around what a council law and how a council law presents itself. There are similarities. However, with social media, there are additional requirements in our policy around how a councillor presents themselves on social media.
Thank you very much. Councillors, further discussion on the motion. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, the inclusion of that paragraph, it exists in the social media policy. I don't know whether it needs to be repeated here. And I just hope that this is actually followed. You know, there's been examples in the past where changes to the minutes were brought to light that may have been reported in the paper, and the paper then wasn't informed of the correction, so that some misinformation was allowed to exist in the newspaper. It seems to point out here that if that's the case, then they'll be corrected. So I hope that that's the case.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much indeed. Is there anything of an urgent, late nature from the General Manager?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillors, let's proceed over to page 144, Engineering Services Department report. And we have nil to report. However, the General Manager, do you have any relevant updates that you wish to provide in relation to the Engineering Department?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Unfortunately for Temora Shire Council, Alex Dallenberg, our Engineering Works Manager, will be taking up a role at Goldenfields Water County Council as the Operations Manager, and this will be his last council meeting with us. Alex has been with council for 12 and a half years. He started in the role as the Engineering Technical Officer in October 2011 and has contributed much to the Shire and the council over the time. I've shared the sentiment previously with councillors about how much I've enjoyed working with Alex since I've been here, and I know that is something that's echoed by the team that he works with, our management and executive team, and I'm sure with the councillors as well. His contribution will be greatly missed. However, of course, we wish him all the very best in his position, and we're very pleased that he'll still continue to work and live locally in Temora. Alex's last day of employment with council will be the 19th of April. However, he's got leave, so the last time we'll see him around the office will be the 5th of April. So I felt it was important to acknowledge his dedication and service to council tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager, and of course, as Mayor and on behalf of councillors and the wider community, we do acknowledge the outstanding commitment that Mr. Dallenberg, in his capacity more recently as our Engineering Works Manager. You've done an outstanding job, Mr. Manager, and certainly I know Councillor Judd and I think other councillors have caught up with you to share our various thoughts and views and reflections, which, to be frank, of course we're disappointed, and I think you'd be shattered if we weren't. But once we work past that, we acknowledge that you are broadening your horizon. We do wish you well. You'll always still be part of this council family, and one day, who knows, you may be back in some other capacity. But we place on record our warm thanks to you for your commitment, dedication in all you do, and we wish you and your wife all the very, very best as you start your new chapter. So I'd ask councillors and all present to put your hands together for the manager. Does the manager have any words in response?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just want to say thank you to yourself and all the councillors and executive team, and more broadly the staff. It's very humbling hearing the words from both yourself and the General Manager here tonight, and I've definitely enjoyed all my time and experiences here at TSC. Some key sort of items that I've seen come on, like my involvement digitalising the cemetery so that it can be viewed on a platform to the public for family history type stuff. That's one of the ones where a lot of time walking through taking photos of every single headstone in all of our cemeteries. Took up a fair bit of time, but those sort of rewarding things is exactly what we're here for, and trying to bring the best out for council. So really appreciate the opportunities that I've had, and look forward to chatting to you.
Thank you very, very much. Nothing further from the engineering department of a sad nature or positive one. Thank you very much. Well, they'll hit us next month, councillors, don't worry. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the engineering managers? No, thank you. Let's go to page 145, the Environmental Services Department report, 14.1 Area Park and Springdale Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan. Councillor Judd, noting that he declared his interest earlier, has left the chamber. I'd now call on the Director of Environmental Services.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just on this topic, I'll defer to the town planner who has carriage of this project with the asset manager.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I now go to the town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is to present to council the final Area Park and Springdale Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan. So this study and plan was presented to the Floodplain Risk Management Committee on the 5th of March, where it was endorsed by the committee. So the report summarises the intention of the plan and the information that the plan provides to council and the community, summary of the flood impacts that the study and plan has revealed, and then some development controls that the plan proposes to be included in the next stage of the project. The report summarises the community consultation that was undertaken and the responses received. These responses were considered by the flood consultants, Lyle and Associates, who helped us throughout the project. So there's a discussion there for council's consideration, and then there's a recommendation there that the floodplain risk management plan for Area Park and Springdale be adopted by council. So it's for the consideration of council.
Thank you, Madam Town Planner. Councillor Oliver, as a member of that committee, and note that you and Councillor Judd have recommended to this council that we adopt the report. Do you have any comments, reflections?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been involved with this right from the get-go, actually, and just a couple of comments. Area Park has always been a difficult place to drain because it's in a floodplain situation. It was always going to be that way. When the railway came through, the railway was originally planned to go to Broken Dam, and because it was a junction of three creeks there, it was impossible to have it that way. So they moved the railway in the plan further to the south, and it's a pity they didn't move it further up the hill. But back in those days, steam trains needed level ground to operate efficiently on. So this is why Area Park's where it is. So it's always been a difficult place. I was baptised at Area Park and used to go to church there as a kid, and I've witnessed plenty of floods out there, and it's always the same way. But I think this is a good document. It'll help in planning and that sort of thing, with elevation of 1 in 100 year floods, etc., and all those other ones. particularly at Springdale, because there's a different situation out there where the water's coming off hills at great pace. And the engineer at the meeting informed us that the Department of Railways, or Railway Department, whichever way you want to call it, they have a policy with their culverts that they don't unblock them until they become 85% blocked. So, I mean, that just leaves 15%. And, I mean, I think we can use this as leverage to get a bit more action, to get that water away a little bit quicker and not dam up. And the other thing is, at the recent Springdale meeting, as I said, there were some new members out there and they bought a house pretty much on the creek, as I understand. And they've come and seen the council about getting the vegetation cleared out of the creek so the water can flow just a little bit better. But it doesn't belong to council, it belongs to the Department of Fisheries. And they wrote a letter to that organisation and they haven't heard anything back yet. So here again, we can perhaps use this as leverage to get some action there as well. So I think it's a good document. I think these people, Lyle and Associates, have done as best job as they can do. And I do stress again that Area Park is a difficult situation to drain because it's just so flat and level. So, but yeah, I endorse the recommendation. So,
thank you. You're moving.
I'll move that we adopt
the recommendation.
Yes.
Thank you. So, Councillor Oliver's moved that. Seconder for the motion, Councillor Irvine. You're moving it, seconding it. Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Seconds the motion. You have the call.
Yeah, it was interesting discussion the other day when the final version of it was presented, and the key thing that came out of it was the major issue, or the biggest risk that they identified was at the Springdale site. There's some issues with water over the road, and there's also some issue with some houses on the creek, and there is a possibility that in a bad situation these people would have to be evacuated overland. So this points out that Springdale is probably, in the discussion it says the highest priority works project is the investigation and installation of a flood warning system at Springdale, as flooding is shown within the plan as the highest level of risk. It goes on to discuss the situation at Area Park, and it does point out that a number of the landowners fundamentally downstream and to the west of Area Park and to the north have got some serious issues with various proposals. And also it goes on to say that one of the issues, or one of the solutions put forward, which is a levy or some sort of a berm on the east of Area Park, it wouldn't attract any funding because it's on private land and the landowner's unwilling to grant an easement at this stage. So pretty much it basically, the summary there is adopt the flood study and progress the discussions at Area Park to try and come up with a solution. The best part about it, I think, is the document rounds up all of the issues in one place and it gives you a start point. I've taken the trouble to go out and to verify the LiDAR readings and their hydrological models following different rain events, and I've found them to be very accurate. You can pretty much look at the plan, drive up to the location and see the water fundamentally at the depth that they're modelling. So I've got a lot of faith in the model. The only thing that'll bring that undone is if works are done that aren't on the plan. So everything we do needs to be basically referenced back to Lyle and reference to the plan so that all of the investment can be leveraged and it remains a workable tool, a viable tool. Otherwise, you go and do 4 or 5 different works and you don't refer them to the plan, you don't record them. Well, fundamentally the plan's out the gate and then you're back to square one, you don't know what's going to happen. So I think it's been a good process. There's some good outcomes. The highest priority's been highlighted, which gives us a start point, and the Area Park issues are well and truly on the table, so it gives us a start point there, so I think it's a good thing.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you, and well done, Mr Director, Madam Town Planner, Councillor Oliver and Councillor Judd and others for your involvement as members of that committee, pardon me, of that committee. Thank you. Councillor Judd, welcome back to the chamber during your temporary absence in relation to 14.1, Area Park Springdale Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan. The motion of Councillor Oliver and Councillor Irvine was moved and passed unanimously by Council, the recommendation that appears in the report. Thank you. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director of Environmental Services?
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Now, let's go over to page 150, Administration and Finance Department Report 15.1, Sponsorship Requests. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any question.
Thank you very much. The Deputy Mayor? No. Who has it? Councillor Good. Hang on, where are we here? Councillor Good,
yes.
Thank you.
I move the recommendation with the addition of the words at the end of the first sentence, provided an appropriate applicants are found.
Yes. Thank you. So we'll capture that, provided that appropriate applicants are found. So you're happy with the councillors being the panel? You don't want to take up the offer of Volunteering New South Wales? They offered to do it.
I'm happy with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. So you're moving that way. Is there a second for the motion? Councillor Bushell. Moved and seconded. Discussion or amendment? The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Councillor, I'm in two minds about this. I don't know that, as the motion says, to find the right volunteers, I suppose, for the first part, but I just wonder whether we might get better value for money just spending the money on our volunteers locally. I don't know. I just think we could do better with that sort of money. It's a reasonable amount of money, and I'm not sure that how much our volunteers collect with the Shire going to get back out of it. I think, as I said, we'd probably spend the money in a better way, recognising and backing up our volunteers, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. I go to Councillor Bushell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the added advantage of this program is that it's done and run by someone else. If we did something here, we would be tenuring to our staff to do that process. So, it's another taxing process on time.
Thanks, Councillor Bushell. Councillor McLaren.
And I also think that this program will shine a light on volunteering in our community and the importance of it with this, the public, covering of this event, because volunteering is such an important aspect of our community, and I think anything that continues the public emphasis on volunteering to help our community is definitely a good investment.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Councillor Irvine.
I'd like to see a focus on if we can find two people willing to attend and participate in this, that if council were to sponsor that, we could maybe put something around some volunteer support, and they could bring back some fresh ideas and actually do some mentoring for the local volunteering community. You tend to keep going back to the same well. It might be good for these people to go and talk to like-minded people in a bigger forum and get some fresh ideas, and maybe bring them back, and then council may convene some sort of a volunteer sort of just a get together for all the local volunteers and have these two people present and bring these ideas back. And I think that would really leverage council's investment in this space and just make it a much more worthwhile exercise.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I have to say I was a bit sort of initially enthusiastic, and then the more that I analyse it, the less enthusiastic I've become. Certainly, I mean, volunteering, we all know, every one of us knows how crucial it is, and all of us play various roles in volunteering and we love to do it, as does most of our other citizens. But I just felt, again, it's a big ask for them to go, and again, the cost of living does hit all of us to varying extents, and we're asking them to also pay for their travel accommodation and meals, which is an expense. Council, what's before us now in the motion, $610, so that's fine to book the venue. I'm sort of thinking what the Deputy Mayor was saying, to me makes sense in terms of not what, having another conference or what have you, but I think that, for example, we're having a volunteering, I think it's during Local Government Week, Madam General Manager, for all volunteers. Traditionally, it's just been for council committee volunteers. We're doing it more broadly. I actually think that would be better spent supporting, enhancing that event, because you think about the volunteers that we have in sport and arts and other community organisations, it's just overwhelming. So anyway, and I don't support the fact that the panel of councillors, we heard earlier from Councillor Bushell that, the staff haven't got time to do this. Well, you could also argue councillors spare on battling with time commitments as well. But anyway, that's just my initial thoughts. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just going to talk on behalf of my volunteers, and I don't really think they would support this. They certainly wouldn't jump in the car and go to some bloody kumbaya session somewhere to learn how to be a volunteer. I agree with yours and the Deputy Mayor's sentiment. $610 would be far better off spent locally to help some of the volunteers out here with different things that they need to be doing. So, no, I'm not in favour of it, I'm sorry, but I'm not in favour of many kumbaya sessions, to be honest with you, so there you go.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Well, councillors, you have a motion there before you. Is there any further discussion or amendment discussion that will close the debate? Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, I think there's been a few decisions made on behalf of other people in terms of whether or not they would or not foot the bill themselves, or whether or not they could see any value from it. It'd be interesting to see what the volunteering community thought of it. There is an option to put it out there, and if there's no takers, well, the money stays. If there's interest in the community, well, then there's obvious interest in the community, and we could realise some benefit from it. So, yeah, like I say, if we put it out there and there's no responders, well, we keep the cash.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. No further discussion. I'm going to put the motion to you, and we're all clear on the motion that Councillor Good and Councillor Bushell have got before us, that Council approve the cost of $610, including GST and booking fee, from Council's donations budget to sponsor 2 local volunteers to attend the 2024 Volunteering New South Wales State Conference, provided that the appropriate applicants are found, and further that the assessment panel consists of 3 councillors. And again, I will say before I put it, whose definition is, or what is the definition of appropriate? So I suppose, is that a matter for the panel, or I think that's, I certainly for one am not happy with that. But if the mover and seconder are happy with what they have, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. So can I ask for hands? All those of that opinion, please raise your hands. 1, 2. So all those in favour, of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. To the contrary, I declare the motion carried. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be inundated with councillors that wish to put their hand up to be part of the panel. Now, we don't need that now, do we? Okay. So, councillors, I'd like a motion, please, for 3 councillors to sit on that assessment panel. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor McLaren and Councillor Bushell. Someone move that they be appointed. Councillor Good has moved that way. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has seconded the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. And we thank those panel members for putting their hand up. Now, let's go to page 154, 15.2, the Temora Arts Centre Manager, the Director. Thank you, Councillor Judge, declaring non-pecuniary the Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any question.
Thank you. Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to bring to your attention, it's not TADVAC annual report. It's the Temora Arts Centre, not the Temora District Visual.
Thank you. That's noted. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillors, you have the report there for you. There is a recommendation there to consider, and that being that Council note the report. Councillor Good.
I move for the recommendation.
Thank you. You move that way. Seconder for the motion, please. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair moved, seconded. Discussion. I go to Councillor Reinhold.
Sorry. I hope everyone did read Jeremy's report, because that place is just jumping out of its skin. It's fantastic. So well done, Jeremy. He's really picked up the baton and is gone for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor Good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just going to say something similar. We have the Sister City Committee there, and whenever we have the committee there, there's always lots of other people who are using the site, so it appears to be well patronised, which is good.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Councillor Good. Further discussion on the motion, Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to commend the manager on his work down at the centre. I think every few months a new offering of some activity for our community comes along. We've recently had the pottery edition, and people in the community are coming up that you wouldn't expect that are loving pottery, and we've got the writers, creative writers group that has taken off as well, and I just commend the centre. It's really showing its investment to a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. I think the manager is one of our many quiet achievers. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, we'll put the motion to you, and that is that Council note the report. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent late nature from the Director?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, we go over to page 157. Correspondence, nil. No urgent late items, Madam General Manager.
No, not this evening. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. There's no business with notice. We don't have notice of motion. Business without notice of an urgent nature. Any urgent business without notice of an urgent nature? No. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 158. Motion please to receive the Councillor's information paper. Councillor Good, Councillor Bushell, thank you. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, any items out of the information paper? The busy program that we've got in the works report. It's unreal. It really is. Anyway, good work. Anything, councillors? Rates are ticking along. Happy? There's nothing then. In accordance with section 10A of the Local Government Act, I advise that there are several matters considered confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Oliver, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. I now, councillors, we resume back into open council, and I now invite the General Manager to go through the motions that have been brought forward from closed session into open. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to the minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee held on the 12th of March 2024, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to the minutes of the Economic Development and Visitations Committee held on the 12th of March 2024, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to the minutes of the Aerodrome Users Committee held on the 12th of March 2024, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to the outstanding sign project, it was resolved that a notice to complete be issued to the contractor, advising that Temora Shire Council will give the contractor 14 business days to install the Inglebar sign. And further, if the Inglebar sign is not installed within 14 business days of the date of this notice to complete, then the contract will be terminated. Business days defined as Monday to Friday, exclusive of public holidays. And further, that the contractor be advised that as the contract was an entire contract for the supply and installation of the Inglebar sign, no money will be recoverable if the Inglebar sign is not installed by the expiry of the notice. In relation to the tender sprayed bitumen surfacing, it was resolved that the tender be awarded to Downer EDI Works as detailed in the report. In relation to the planning proposal, Gallipoli Street, Hackier Street, Millvale Road and Loftus Street, Temora, it was resolved that Council support the changes to the LEP as detailed in the planning proposal and submit the planning proposal to the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure for gateway determination. That was carried unanimously. In relation to the Bundawarra Estate Master Plan, it was resolved that Council notes the quotation refers the project to the 2024-2025 budget estimates. In relation to Pinnacle Community Services, it was resolved that Council proceed as outlined in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard those resolutions that have been brought forward from closed session into open. I now require a motion to formally adopt them in open council. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillor Good, thank you. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. I declare the motion carried. Councillors, thank you very much for your attendance. We had a lot on the agenda. We had excellent discussions, and I do thank you very much. And there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed.